Thanks very much, Lawrence Minetti. Meanwhile, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen will meet with China's vice premier for a second day today. They are in talks in San Francisco today. Yellen said yesterday that she's looking forward to, quote, an open and substantive discussion, and that the U.S. is not looking to separate from the Chinese economy. Watch this.
The United States has no desire to decouple from China. A full separation of our economies would be economically disastrous for both of our countries and for the world.
China's vice premier said that China and the United States need to bring the relationship, quote, back to a healthy and stable development. Joining me right now is the Atlas Organization founder and author of The Decisive Decade, Jonathan D.T. Ward. Jonathan, why do I feel like every time Janet Yellen speaks about China, she's begging China to stay a partner with the United States, even as they keep rolling over the United States, from a surveillance balloon and a massive surveillance program to intellectual property theft, to bullying our ships and flights in the air. And yet she's begging them to come back and have a stable relationship with the U.S.
Well, look, Janet Yellen has been consistently egregious on this entire subject. I mean, it goes beyond the wishful thinking and sort of, what I thought was just not grasping this sort of in the, let's say, in the spring and summer. And I think now it's just a clear strategic direction. I mean, she's there despite everything that's going on in the world, despite Xi Jinping backing Putin's invasion of Ukraine, despite the CCP killing 70,000 Americans a year with fentanyl, building up a military, building up their nuclear arsenal, their navy, their missile forces, all of that, and they've told us what they're going to do with all that. You have her saying, look, economics is off the table. We're not going to do anything to stop you. And it plays right into their arms. I mean, the last chance that we've got to handle this and to win a peacetime competition is through winning an economic competition. And Janet Yellen has made clear that she is not going to do that, has no interest in it. And by the way, decoupling is a spectrum. It's not about the full separation. It's about securing our supply chains, maintaining superiority in strategic industries, and widening the gap between our GDP, our national wealth, and them, then restructuring the global economy so it doesn't depend on China. I mean, you cannot have, I mean, imagine if Nazi Germany or the Soviet Union had been the workshop of the world and, the dominant player in global trade. I mean, it would be a very different outcome in history. So we have this one chance to get this right, make sure that China never surpasses us, and then to win the geopolitical long game. And she's just not in it to do anything that's strategically relevant to that, it appears.
Well, Jonathan, this could not be more serious. I mean, you've identified this a long time ago, and now it's bubbling up. And the truth is, it's not just Janet Yellen. It's her boss, okay? Yellen's talks with China's vice premier come ahead of the expected meeting between President Biden and Chinese leader Xi Jinping next week. Republicans on the House Select Committee on China have written a letter to Biden about this yesterday, urging him against continuing this, quote, repeated concessions to China. They list 10 demands that they suggest Biden make of Xi Jinping before the end of the APEC summit, including releasing all U.S. citizens determined wrongfully detained in China, releasing and dropping charges against Jimmy Lai, know your customer requirements on Chinese shipments of fentanyl precursors, and ceasing all military operations in Taiwan's air defense identification zone. Jonathan, how many of these things do you think Joe Biden is going to raise with Xi Jinping next week?
Look, I mean, I don't think the CCP is not going to agree to any of these, no matter who raises them. I mean, first of all, who we're dealing with is a power that's intent on defeating us in a geopolitical contest, whether that's military or economic or all of the above. I mean, that's where they're coming from. And, it's interesting because Biden, and it was a great letter. I thought the Congress people did a great job with this. They identified that basically Biden in the first year was actually taking real action on China when it came to human rights, when it came to Xinjiang, when it came to putting more companies on the entities list, all of those sorts of things. And then it just went away and became what they call zombie engagement, which I think is accurate. I mean, we're back into this mode where this administration is trying to re-engage China, stabilize it, keep economics, keep the economic relationship going at the expense of all these things that really are important. And it's funny because what Biden said, I think in one of his first foreign policy speeches in February of 2021, he talks about putting U.S. democratic values back at the centerpiece of our foreign policy and our diplomacy. And I think we've wound up in absolutely the opposite, outcome here, where, to engage with this regime, to give them sort of a longer runway and more latitude to carry out their, global strategy, to essentially surpass us and ultimately defeat us, and also to become the most sophisticated and horrific perpetrator of human rights abuses. I mean, this is where we are. I mean, how can you go and engage and shake hands and deal with a place that is doing all of that? And now we understand what it is. So I think the congressmen and women have, identified some really important things, but the CCP is never going to agree to that. And this meeting that we're going to have, they had their own conditions, by the way. I mean, the deputy chief of mission in the Chinese embassy in Washington said that China had 4 bottom lines and red lines representing their core interests, and those were basically to be respected, as they see it, on Taiwan, on their version of democracy and human rights, on China's path to development and its political and economic system, and then on China's right to development. So they're basically saying, look, you're going to leave us alone on all of these important things, and only then are we going to have a meeting. So I think we're just in a very, this is not Gorbachev. This is not even Khrushchev, who Biden is meeting with. I mean, Xi Jinping is more like Stalin at best. And it's still a power that is preparing for war with the United States, that is backing Putin in Europe, that's backing Iran in the Middle East. And, we're next in the Pacific. I mean, that's how this goes.
Jonathan, I saw this story recently from Reuters that the Taliban is going to join China's Belt and Road Forum. I mean, the Taliban will join the Belt and Road Forum. China has been quietly backing Iran and backing these terrorists. We know that. It's in, plain sight. What do you believe should be the talking point or the conversation around China's support of all of our adversaries?
Well, and we need to get our foreign policy right. I mean, this needs to be about containment of China.
That's right.
We still have this chance to do containment, but it's economic. It starts with economic, and then it starts with rebuilding our defense capabilities in the Pacific. I mean, we still have the shot to do this, but it doesn't come through diplomacy with Xi Jinping. I don't think that's an avenue towards anything, really. What matters here is to get our businesses out, to get our allies' businesses out, to reduce their access to our markets and to our capital markets and our technology, and then to start rebuilding the military deterrent that we still can provide in the Pacific before it's too late. And at the same time, I think we do have to support the Ukrainians. We have to make sure that Russia does not succeed in Europe, and have the Europeans shoulder more of that burden. I mean, that's how the alliance system is supposed to work, where we're all sharing responsibility globally, and then to back Israel in the Middle East, of course, and get towards some sort of stability there. But we have to focus on the Pacific. In the Cold War, a lot of the action took place in the secondary theater in Asia, but we had really stabilized the primary theater with the Soviet Union. We'd figured out deterrence, I think, pretty early on, and we were fully engaged in Europe, and therefore there was no war that actually broke out. So we have to catch up with that now in the primary theater, which is Asia. We're not there, and that's the big gap that's missing.
And we've got to be visible. But I got to get your take on these nuclear talks, because we've been talking a lot about these conversations underway between the U.S. and China on the nuclear build-up, but a group of GOP lawmakers are now pressing Energy Secretary Jennifer Granholm over her reported invitation her department made to China and Russia to inspect a sensitive U.S. nuclear testing site in Nevada. I find this just incredible. In a letter to lawmakers, they write, giving our adversaries access to our nuclear testing will only work to undermine our interest and worsen the international destabilization we're facing because of the Biden administration's weakness on the world stage. Jonathan, why is Jennifer Granholm inviting our adversaries, China and Russia, to inspect such sensitive work, our nuclear site in Nevada?
Well, no, I don't think that makes sense. I mean, on one level, having nuclear discussions and arms control discussions is a feature, even with major adversaries. And we were able to do that in the Cold War, but I think we were in a very different phase of the Cold War by the time that happened. I mean, today we're in something that's very different. I mean, you're talking about one of these places. I mean, Russia's at war in Europe, and China is preparing for war in the Pacific, and both of them are using their nuclear arsenals as a backstop to that. I mean, China's going to expand its nuclear arsenal 3- to 4-fold. So, you know, to have them you know, in sort of confidence-building measures that involve inspecting sensitive U.S. sites does not make any sense. I mean, we know exactly what Putin is up to. We know exactly who Xi Jinping is. I don't think that is a rational approach. There are other ways to have nuclear talks, but that is not necessarily a wise way to handle it. So no, we don't need them in Nevada.
All right, Jonathan, we'll keep watching all of this. The Decisive Decade is a must-read, and we appreciate your time.